Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, first of all, I was just thinking we have so much more time before the season starts. And I thought, no, we have one more Saturday of not football and then a whole bunch of Saturdays of football in a row, which is good. Just to be clear, my position on football remains good. It's just like, boy, there's a lot of stuff we got to do in the 14 or give or take days between now and then.
Yes, high school football has started. School is back going. There's already bus shortages in Central Ohio. It's here. Fall is here. Welcome, everybody. On the previous show that we did, we talked about how deep Ohio State is going to go on offense in terms of each position and the bigger games. That way, you know what the actual true rotation is and who's good enough who's trusted enough to play, who is game ready, as Urban Meyer would say. So now we're going to give that same treatment to the defensive side of the ball. Basically, who's going to be out there against Texas, who's going to be out there at Iowa, against you at USC, and really, as the season goes on, the names will, I think, kind of change. But initially, say the first month of the season, who's going to be out there regularly, Tom? And I'm asking you, defensive ends, because I feel like I think we're going to see quite a few, but I think it's going to be a smaller group against Texas.
Yeah, this is a really interesting group because you go back over the years and, for example, 2023, when they were playing at Notre Dame, it was just JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer at defensive end all game long. Now, that's not what they would prefer to do, but if they feel that the ones are way ahead of where the twos are, that's what they might do. I'm certainly not expecting that this year because I don't think, I think you've got Kenyatta Jackson, and I don't think you have anyone else who you're looking at as like so head and shoulders above everyone else that you're not going to play behind them. So I'm going to say 4 people at defensive end for these big games. I think that number could go as high as 6 because I think, if you look at the whole group, Kenyatta Jackson, Bo Atkinson, Quay Russaw, Zion Grady, Epi Satanale. I think there's a possibility that Kari Wilder gets into that conversation at some point, but it's probably not right away. And I'm certainly not expecting to see him against Texas. But I think you could get up to 6 at some point. But right now, I think you're going to see 3. You're going to see, for sure, Kenyatta Jackson, Bo Atkinson, Quay Russaw. I'm certainly expecting to see Epi Satanale and Zion Grady some as well. But, I think that sort of 4-ish range is probably about right for the start of the season.
I think this one is very, very interesting. Just looking back last year, 4 defensive ends played against Texas: Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, Bo Atkinson, and CJ Hicks. Zion Grady did not play. Joshua Mickens, no Logan George, no Epi Satanale, no Dominic Kirks. But am I ready to say that, Epi Satanale is not going to play against Texas? I'm not. Would it shock me if he doesn't? Not necessarily. Would it shock me if Kari Wilder doesn't? No. So yes on Kenyatta Jackson, yes on Bo Atkinson, yes on Quay Russaw for the situational aspect. And then, boy, if Zion Grady's going to play, why not Epi Satanale? And same, and vice versa. So I think there will be, I'm going to say 5, and I'm not going to lock in on which 5, but I think there will be times where, hey, there's, whether it's 3 snaps, 1 snap, or 2, I know we're talking about rotational, and 2 or 3 snaps against Texas is rotational against everybody else. So I will lock in and say 5 defensive ends. And if I'm wondering, how possible, Tom, how shocked would you be if it is 6? Because then you're just talking Zion Grady, Kari Wilder, and Epi Satanale all get in. It's not outrageous, but I'm going to say no, but possible.
if you're setting the over under at 5.5, I'm probably taking the under there. Is it possible that you get 2 or 3 of them in there for 3 snaps, 5 snaps, something like that? Yeah, absolutely. That's possible. And if you have guys in there for just a handful of snaps, then that's when it becomes more likely that you do. If it's, there's 4 guys and they're all getting 30 snaps. Okay. That chews up a lot of the snaps. If you feel like, okay, you're sort of just situationally subbing guys in. And we also don't know how many different personnel packages are they going to have, because we've heard about them in a 3-3-5. We've heard about them in a 4-3. We've heard about them in a 4-2-5. And is Quay Russaw going to be sort of like an overhang defender and he's not one of the 4 guys, or is he going to be one of the 4? It just, there's a bunch of different variables here that we're sort of trying to sort out. But yeah, I think 5 is an absolutely reasonable number for the, for the Texas game in terms of guys having at least a handful of snaps.
Defensive tackle, Jarquez Carter got 3 snaps last year against Texas. Jason Moore, none. Eric Mensah, Trajan Odom, none. But they played 4, or actually 5, including Jarquez Carter. They've got 5 veterans. Is it going to shock me if Jason Moore plays in this game as that 5th guy? No. I think this is another situation where, how many defensive ends are taking defensive tackle snaps? So I think last year, if they were able to play 5, with Cade McDonald being not Cade McDonald at that point, but I think Tom, I'm going to set the over under at 4.5.
I'll go over that because the 4 is easy. It's James Smith and Edric Houston and Will Smith Jr. and John Walker. So that's the easy 4. And I think they're going to play Jason Moore at least some this year, because you're going to have times when, first of all, it's going to be like 90 degrees and 90% humidity. So yes. I think you're going to want to keep those guys fresh. And, is it possible that you get someone like a Jameer Perez who is just different enough from everyone else that there might be a situation where it's like, well, you got to get him in because, there's no one else who's as big as he is, or whatever.
4th and 1.
Yeah, 4th and 1 kind of situations. Yeah, absolutely possible. But yeah, I think I will go over 4.5 and say that Jason Moore does play 5-10 snaps at least.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's 5 defensive tackles in that game. So then we move to linebackers. We've been talking all along that it's going to be a solid 4 with Peyton Pierce and Christian Allegro and Riley Pettijohn and T.J. Alford. I expect to see all 4 of those guys playing against Texas. If they don't, then, again, that tells you that they have a 3 that they really like, and then the 4th guy can mix in maybe other games. I do think we will see 4, and just looking really quickly, it was only 3 that played last year: Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, and Peyton Pierce. No Riley Pettijohn or T.J. Alford or Garrett Stover. But I think this year, 4, and the real question for me is, can they go beyond that? I don't think they need to. I don't think they will, out of, at least on purpose, they won't. Something would have to happen before they go over 4, in my opinion.
That's about where I would have the line as well, because I think, we have heard a bunch of good stuff about Eli Lee this year, but I don't think you want to be playing 5 linebackers when you're going to be in a 4-2-5 for a good bit of the time, where you're not going to be playing 3 linebackers at a time. So if you're at 4, if you're in a 4-2-5, playing 4 guys is, basically 2 platoons. And obviously you're going to be in a 4-3 some, and you're going to have plenty of opportunities for those guys to play. But yeah, I don't expect, last year, Riley Pettijohn, T.J. Alford not playing. That doesn't surprise me. They were true freshmen in their first games. I think the only true freshman who saw on defense last year in game 1 against Texas was Devin Sanchez. But now those guys are sophomores. I think you're going to see Pettijohn. I think you're going to see Alford. I know you're going to see Allegro. I know you're going to see Peyton Pierce. So I think 4 is a good number there. And I think you're going to have 3 of those guys at least with 20 snaps at least. I think right now, if you're, gun to my head, I'm saying Peyton Pierce, Christian Allegro, 40 snaps, 50 snaps, whatever the number is, a lot of snaps for those 2 guys, 20 or so for Riley Pettijohn, and probably, 5 to 10 for TJ Alford, something like that.
Okay. Let's talk about trying to figure out how to do this with corners, just outside corners. Mm-hmm. I think the number is it's 2 or 3. It's Jermaine Mathews and Devin Sanchez, and can Dominick Kelly, is he to that point now where he is going to play? And I almost feel like this depends on how well the two corners are playing. If they're playing well, you don't necessarily want to mix things up. But as you just reminded me, it's going to be really hot. Now it's still going to be night, but we're from Ohio. Like, I know Devin Sanchez isn't, but the rest of us, and I know Dominick Kelly isn't, but the rest of us, no, I think you would like to be able to get a third guy in there for that. And again, like, if they can play against Texas, if they do play against Texas, I expect them to play every other game as well. We have not seen a ton from Dominick Kelly since, well, we haven't seen anything since the first 3 practices. I've not really heard much either. We know he's working with the 1s and 2s. I don't think that has been, that continues. Do you think this number reaches 3 against Texas?
I think their default answer is going to be keep it at 2 unless you need to. And the situation may dictate that you need to, but everything we are hearing about Devin Sanchez has been very, very positive this month. Very, very positive. So I think you want to keep him on the field as much as you can. Jermaine Mathews is a proven veteran senior. He's been very, very good. I think he's going to hold up pretty well. And I think they're going to stay, some of this depends on, does Jay Timmons, do they feel that Dominick Kelly is better than Jay Timmons, and then you end up taking Jermaine Mathews and slotting him in at the nickel or something like that? Possible. But I think if they had their druthers, they would probably right now keep Jermaine Mathews and Devin Sanchez on the field as much as they possibly can.
I think you could see when they go dime, maybe Jermaine Mathews is the other slot guy and Dominick Kelly comes in. I think that's one way we can say, okay, there's that. Before we get to the nickel, you could also have with this whole, all of these, the dime linebacker, the dime DB, maybe the dime, we'll say, will go 2 deep with maybe Jermaine Mathews and maybe Simeon Caldwell, the safety as that dime linebacker. Nickel, it's Jay Timmons, and whether that's is, I wouldn't expect, again, this is when it gets all kind of wonky with the packaging. He's the number 1 nickel. He's not rotating with anybody other than when the packages, change him in and out. We would agree with that. Tom, safeties, what are you expecting? Can they get 3 safeties out there and just a non-dime, just typical, okay, let's rotate Jaylen McClain, let's rotate Earl Little out? Because I don't know that I see that right now. I don't see that right now.
No, I think right now, based on what we're hearing and what we've seen so far this fall, I am expecting this to be Earl Little and Jaylen McClain. And maybe you get Terry Moore out there for a handful of snaps. Maybe you get Leroy Roker out there for a handful of snaps. But I think the odds are that's more likely to happen in a dime situation, which we're sort of setting that to the side right now because there's a lot of possible answers in terms of how they're going to configure that. And that's one of those things they were trying to sort of nail down over the last few days to figure out where, situationally, where do all the different pieces fit together. So we may have a better sense for that later on this week. But right now, I would say, similar to the outside corners, if it's up to them, if everyone is able to hold up physically in terms of the amount of snaps and the weather and everything else, I think they would prefer to have just those 2 safeties out there.
Yep, I would agree. Do you guys agree? If you're watching, have we missed anybody? Do you think they're going to go deeper on defense than we are talking about? Go ahead and throw your comments in there, and we'll take a look at those. Feedback is always welcome. Even the negative feedback, Tom. I've seen a couple, and does it hurt? Of course. Do I let it bother me? Of course. But no. As long as you're watching and subscribing, I almost don't care. But feedback is always welcome. 5-star rating and review on the audio side, always welcome. And what is most welcome, Tom, come join us over at BuckeyeInsiders.com. Thank you so much for those of you who have. I know I say this on a lot of the shows. Come see us. Thank you guys thank you for those of you who have. And of course, we welcome certainly anybody that would like to join us over at BuckeyeInsiders.com. That will do it for today. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.